Okay.
However you're comfortable talking, that's how we need you.
Okay.
So if you feel better leaning back, there's a pillow there if you'd like that behind
Yes.
your back. Kristen used it.
Yes.
So if that
feel
helps
like
you
I'm
feel more
leaning
comfortable, the key is just to be comfortable.
Yes. There we go.
We're just at the coffee shop having
Okay.
coffee. Get your focus dialed in real quick. Here we go. You're ready. Please let it be a visit.
So I'm Julie Vogler, and I'm from Abilene, Texas, and we use CattleMax to manage two different herds. I help with my parents' herd, and then I help with my in-laws' herd, and my husband and I run our cattle in with our in-laws. So kind of three separate ownership situations, and I've helped with all of them for several years now. And then with my parents, I grew up that way. Grew up with the cattle, grew up learning how to work on the ranch. Just really enjoyed getting to work with the cattle every single day. In fact, whenever I was 5 years old, all I wanted to do was AI a cow for my birthday. That's how attached to the cattle industry I was. So.
Boys look like that noise?
Barely. I mean, we put a music bed under this, they're gonna not be in it.
Okay. I love that 5-year-old AI cow. So some of this will be repetitive. We'll be editing and back. But I kind of want to go back to the family story without the CattleMax part.
Yes.
And just talk about how you got into ranching. Just kind of what that life is. And maybe go ahead and repeat your 5-year-old AI cow. That's hilarious.
Do you want me to start back with my name and kind of all of that and just leave off? Because I can, now that I've said it once, I can kind of
Sure.
Okay.
If that helps you flow, absolutely. Fine.
Okay. I'm Julie Vogler, and I'm from Abilene, Texas. I grew up on a cattle ranch with my parents and my 3 older brothers. So I grew up around cattle my whole life. We showed steers, and I was very attached to the industry. And at 5 years old, all I wanted to do for my birthday was to be able to AI cow all by myself. Instead, I got to sit on the back of a horse while he ate out of a cake bucket. We don't use horses. We were considered Dad's horses, the 3 brothers and I were. So he'd drive in a pickup and dump us out locations, and then we'd get up our cattle that way. And then eventually, once Dad was older and we were gone, he transitioned to 4-wheelers. So we have a different type of operation than some people, but now I'm also helping with my husband's family and their cattle herd, and then my husband and I run our cattle in with my in-laws' herd.
So you were born into ranching. What has kept you in cattle ranching lifestyle? Why have you stayed in it?
I think probably just the...
I'm sorry, I'm starting to catch them outside there. You guys are good, thanks. Microphone picks up a lot of stuff. And continue.
Okay, so we will go back to why did you choose to stay in the ranching lifestyle? What kept you there?
So I left the ranching lifestyle for a little while to go to college, went to Texas A&M and spent 5 years there getting my degrees, and then worked as a counselor in San Antonio for 5 years and an athletics coach. And during all of that time, I would travel back as often as I could to help with the family herd, and felt responsibility to be there to help with my family's herd, but also just loved it. That's where I was happy. That was where I was at peace, where I was the calmest, where I felt the most successful, like I knew what I was doing and how to do it, and like I was actually helping those animals, improving their life by coming back and helping improve their situation on the family ranch. And so I left it for 10 years and came back to it because it's where I feel most comfortable. And I was very comfortable at A&M and College Station, and then also in my job in San Antonio, but there's just that pull to come back to that way of life that I grew up with, and where I first learned to work and first learned my morals and my character, and just the foundation of who I am, and being able to get back to those roots has been very important and valuable to me.
That's awesome. That's really good. So, and choose to raise cattle? I'll answer that question. So, how important do you feel record keeping is?
Record keeping is extremely important. My dad went from his dad having a small herd, and then it just kept growing and growing. And since we showed steers, they would AI a lot and bring in what are now on CattleMax referred to as reference bulls or things like that, and just being able to track our bloodlines and knowing what bloodlines were in our herd and where we needed to take things to not be breeding back within the same bloodlines. All of that was almost impossible before we had a way to keep records. And then just Dad having his little book that he kept in his front pocket of his shirt, and each pasture on a different page unless there were too many head, and then it'd go to another page, and sometimes that would run in, just haphazard record keeping that made complete sense to him, but if anybody else needed to help him, it was a little bit more difficult. So being able to have a more organized system for record keeping has been extremely valuable. Dad especially has fought it in the beginning just because it was on a computer and didn't really want to transition to that type of record keeping. He had tried to do it once before on an Excel file and sat down and spent many hours with my brother doing it, and then somehow about a year later it disappeared. And so I think that was a big factor in him not wanting to go towards this type of record keeping like CattleMax, but within a few months of using it and being able to see that reports could be changed up and to meet his needs and what he was looking for each time in each pasture, then he has found it to be extremely valuable. And I guess I find it so valuable that as I use it more, I am by default selling it to other people without meaning to, because I'm constantly talking about how it's improved my mom and dad's herd and their record keeping and knowing where we are with things. And then my in-laws signed up. I didn't even try to get them to sign up, and now I've got other people that are wanting to, just because I'm talking about it on a regular basis, because it really changed the way that we do things on our operation.
Okay. So what do you like most about CattleMax?
Everything. I mean, there's so much that I love about it. What do I love most about it? Probably the fact that I can have flexibility in how I want to see my records. So I can put it all in there. It's stored in an Excel file. I would just have column after column after column, or pages separating all of that. Here it's kind of an organized record keeping system that also has a good look and a good feel to it, where I can quickly navigate from animal to animal or pasture to pasture. And then whenever I get ready to print it out for my parents to use, because they don't really get on the computer end of it all, whenever I print out those reports, I can ask him what he's looking for and quickly build those reports the way he wants them and have that ready to go and hit print, and he can take it out to the pasture, make notes on it, and bring it straight back and update the system. It's quick, it's easy, it's flexible, and has a good look and feel.
If you would use the phrase for me, I can't imagine, like not having CattleMax, but just use the word I can't imagine, and just kind of articulate what aspect of the program you just would not want to do without.
Okay.
Or the other thing is that I can't imagine having something where I couldn't have it with me all the time.
Right.
Any of that.
Right. Well, now that I've been using CattleMax for several years, I really can't imagine not being able to update my records while I'm out in the pasture, or while I'm standing next to the trailer right before they're going to auction, or right before we're transitioning them to another pasture, and being able to turn in bulls and remove bulls quickly. If I didn't have CattleMax where I could use it on my phone out in the pasture, I just wouldn't even be able to imagine how I could keep my records updated the way that we are now.
Okay. So what made you decide you wanted to join the CattleMax team? That's a recent addition, so we won't have to say recent, but what made you decide to join CattleMax?
Well, there were several reasons I decided to join CattleMax. Like I mentioned earlier, I was constantly talking about it. So all summer long, my family and my friends that were in the agriculture industry that knew what I was talking about whenever I was talking about CattleMax and how it had changed the way we function in our operation, they were just saying, well, why don't you go work for them? Why don't you contact CattleMax and ask if they have a position available so that you can work for them, because you're already promoting the program so much that you might as well be working for them. So I guess the reason I decided to try to work for CattleMax is because they had changed our operation and the way we functioned and made it so much less stressful and so much easier to function and to keep records, that I felt like I wanted to do that for others, make their lives, their operations so much easier and less stressful, and so that they could know what they had out in the pastures quickly, easily, and be able to update that information.
Is that noise getting away? Because that was really good.
That was good. I think we're okay.
Okay, good. 'Cause that was really, really good. You nailed it. We're good.
Okay,
Yeah, that's all of them I need.
good deal.
You can go choose the next